The mysterious message. The peaceful galaxy had been thriving for centuries. The Galactic Council, a vast organization made up of powerful alien species, had ensured stability across the stars. For generations, there had been little conflict, and every species knew its place in the galaxy. But something changed one quiet morning. It began with a single transmission, a strange message that appeared out of nowhere on every communication channel across the galaxy. At first, it seemed like a glitch, something that could be easily dismissed. But when the message repeated itself, it couldn't be ignored. The transmission was simple, but its implications were terrifying. It contained a single sentence, written in a language that was familiar to all, but its meaning was chilling. Humanity is coming, and when they return, everything will change. The message was sent from deep space, from a region where no one had dared to explore for centuries. The galaxy had long since forgotten about humanity. Earth, the home of humans, had vanished from records, lost to time, and the ravages of war. It was believed that humanity had either destroyed itself or faded into nothingness. Yet here, now, was this chilling morning. The Galactic Council immediately called an emergency meeting. Leaders from every corner of the galaxy gathered in the Grand Chamber, their faces a mix of confusion and fear. The message had been sent in the universal language, but it was its content that disturbed them the most. The name humanity was not one that anyone wanted to hear again. Most believed humans had been wiped out long ago, and the idea of them returning was unsettling. But who would send such a message, and why now? "We have to act quickly," said Velok, the leader of the Zogryth, a towering species known for their military prowess. His eyes gleamed with worry. "If this message is true, we may be facing something far worse than we've ever dealt with." The room grew silent, each leader contemplating the possibility that humans were, in fact, still alive, and returning with strength that no one could predict. Kor, a small but clever representative from the Galtrim race, leaned forward. "But what if this is just a hoax? A trick to make us panic?" Velok's eyes narrowed. "And if it's not? We can't afford to take any chances." The council was divided. Some argued for an immediate defensive response, preparing fleets and weapons, while others suggested investigating the source of the message. But in the end, there was only one decision that made sense. They had to investigate. If humanity was truly coming, they needed to know what they were up against. A special envoy was sent to the region where the message had originated. Ships from several species formed a convoy, led by the largest and most powerful ship in the galaxy, the Ardent Star, a warship built for extreme situations. The crew consisted of the galaxy's finest pilots and scientists, ready to face whatever awaited them in the unexplored region of space. As the convoy traveled through the cold, dark expanse, the crew grew anxious. They were headed toward a place no one had dared to visit in centuries. The further they went, the more oppressive the silence became. No one spoke. Everyone felt the weight of uncertainty pressing down on them. The leader of the expedition, Captain Zalora of the Thrax, stood at the command center of the Ardent Star, her hands clasped tightly behind her back. "Keep your eyes on the scanners. Any sign of something unusual, report it immediately," she ordered, her voice steady but laced with a quiet tension. Suddenly, the ship's sensors beeped urgently. The crew jumped to attention as the screens lit up with signals that couldn't be ignored. The scanners had picked up something massive, something that shouldn't be there. It was not just a ship, but a massive structure, hidden in the depths of space. Zalora's heart raced. Could this be it? Could this be the humans? The transmission had come from this exact region, and now they had discovered something that shouldn't exist. Something ancient. Something powerful. "Prepare to make contact," Zalora ordered. "We're going in." As the Ardent Star moved closer to the structure, the crew's nervousness turned to awe. The structure was unlike anything they had ever seen. It was colossal, a massive ship or station, covered in thick layers of dust and debris from centuries of disuse. The outer walls seemed to glow faintly, as if the ship had been dormant for eons, but was still alive in some way. Suddenly, a loud crackling noise filled the ship's communication system. The crew froze. Then came a voice, deep and resonant, carrying through the speakers of the ardent star. "This is humanity. Welcome home." The voice was unmistakable. It was the voice of a human, speaking through technology that had long been forgotten. And it carried a promise that humanity was not just alive, but returning. The crew stared at the screens, wide-eyed. They had expected many things, but not this. The silence in the room was deafening. What they had just heard confirmed it. Humanity had survived, and they were coming. Zalora stood frozen for a moment, her mind racing. The galaxy had not seen humans for centuries, and now they were back, with a force that no one could predict. What did this mean for the future? Were they returning as allies, or as something far worse? The Council had been warned, but they were not ready. And now, they had no choice but to prepare for the unimaginable. This was only the beginning, the awakening of the past. The shockwaves of humanity's return reverberated throughout the galaxy. News of the mysterious message and the voice on the ardent star spread like wildfire. Representatives from every species in the galaxy began to wonder, what did this mean? Could humanity truly have survived all these years? And if they had, what had they become? Captain Zalora sat in the dimly lit command room of the ardent star, her mind racing. The voice had sounded calm, but there was a chilling undertone to it. The message wasn't just a greeting. It was a declaration. Welcome home. Humanity, it seemed, wasn't just surviving. They were claiming their place once again in the galaxy. "Captain, we've located several more ships nearby," said Commander Tanis, her voice tense as the ship's sensors hummed to life. "They're on an intercept course, and they're human." Zalora's breath caught in her throat. She had hoped, even prayed, that humanity's return wouldn't come with such force. But it seemed the galaxy had underestimated them. The fleet of ships emerging from the shadows of space was vast, far larger than anything the galaxy had seen in recent history. The human presence was undeniable, and it was growing. "Prepare for contact," Zalora ordered, her voice steady despite the turmoil within. "We don't know their intentions yet, but we have to face them head-on." As the ships drew closer, the tension on the ardent star intensified. The crew worked in silence, preparing for whatever came next. The massive vessels on the scanners were unlike anything they had seen before. They were sleek, formidable, and designed for war. These ships weren't relics from the past. They were modern, advanced, and ready to dominate. "We've sent out a message," Commander Tanis said, her eyes locked on the communication screen. "We're requesting a peaceful dialogue, but I don't know how they'll respond." Zalora nodded, but she had little faith in the peaceful resolution. Humanity had not returned simply to talk. They had come to reclaim something. The question was, what had they lost, and what were they willing to fight for to get it back? The tension in the room was palpable. The crew of the ardent star anxiously awaited a response. And then, without warning, the voice that had once spoken through the communication system echoed once more, sending a chill down the spines of everyone on board. "This is humanity," the voice said again, but this time, the tone was different, cold, commanding. "We are not here to negotiate. We are here to reclaim what is ours." The words hung in the air like a dark cloud, and Zalora felt her stomach twist in unease. It was not a call for peace. It was a declaration of war. "Captain, the fleet is moving," Tanis reported, her fingers flying across the console. "They've locked onto us. They're preparing to fire." Zalora's heart raced. There was no mistaking it now. The humans were not just back. They were coming for something, and they were prepared to take it by force if necessary. "Brace for impact," Zalora shouted. The crew scrambled into action, securing themselves as the ship shook under the incoming blasts from the human fleet. The ardent star's shields flared to life, absorbing the first wave of attacks, but Zalora knew they couldn't withstand this assault for long. The human ships were powerful, too powerful. This wasn't the humanity they had once known. They had returned with technology and strength that far exceeded anything the galaxy had ever encountered. "Captain, what are our options?" Commander Tanis asked, her voice tight with fear. Zalora's mind raced as she weighed the options. There were none. The galaxy had underestimated humanity, and now they were paying the price. The humans were no longer the fragile species they once were. They had evolved, adapted, and now they were coming to reclaim their place in the galaxy, by force if necessary. "We fight," Zalora said grimly. "We fight, and we hope that we can survive long enough to figure out what they want." But deep down, she knew the truth. The galaxy had made a terrible mistake by forgetting humanity. And now, the day had come for them to face the consequences. Outside, the human fleet pressed forward, and the battle for the future of the galaxy began. The galaxy had underestimated humanity once before. It would not make that mistake again. The battle for survival. The impact of the human fleet's attack reverberated throughout the ardent star, shaking its very core. Zalora's grip on the armrest tightened as the ship rocked violently under another barrage of blasts. Sparks flew from various panels, and alarms blared throughout the corridors. "Shields holding at 60%, Captain," reported Commander Tanis, her voice strained from the pressure. "But they won't last long at this rate." Zalora's mind raced. They had underestimated humanity. She had underestimated humanity. The voices from the communication system had been clear, and their intentions were undeniable. The humans were here to reclaim their dominance, and the galaxy had no choice but to respond in kind. "Divert all power to the shields and weapons systems," Zalora ordered, her voice steady despite the chaos around her. "We need to hold them off for as long as possible." Her crew scrambled to comply, but it was clear they were facing an overwhelming force. The human ships, sleek and powerful, pressed forward relentlessly, firing in perfect formation. It was almost as if they had planned for this moment, like they knew exactly how the galaxy would react, and they had prepared for it. "We're not going to last much longer if this keeps up," Commander Tanis said, her tone filled with frustration. Zalora clenched her jaw. They had tried to avoid conflict, tried to open a dialogue, but humanity had spoken in the only language they understood: force. "All fighter pilots, launch immediately," Zalora barked. "We need to buy time for the fleet to regroup." Within seconds, the hangar doors opened, and a swarm of ships shot into space, engaging the human fleet in a desperate attempt to hold them off. But it was clear from the start that this battle was unlike any they had fought before. The human ships moved with eerie precision, avoiding the incoming fire from the ardent star's fighters with ease. They weren't just fighting. They were hunting, like predators circling their prey. Zalora watched helplessly as the fighters were torn apart by the superior firepower of the human ships. One by one, they were destroyed, leaving nothing but wreckage floating in space. The overwhelming might of humanity was on full display, and it was a sight that sent chills down Zalora's spine. "We can't win this," Tanis muttered, her face pale as she watched the destruction unfold. "We're not giving up yet," Zalora replied firmly. "We need to stall them, buy time. There's got to be something we can do." Her mind raced as she thought back to the reports of humanity's technology. There had been rumors, whispers of incredible advancements, but none of it had seemed real until now. The humans had come prepared, armed with weapons that could decimate entire fleets in moments. "We've got one shot," Zalora said suddenly, her eyes lighting up with a new idea. "Prepare the experimental weapon. Target their flagship." Tanis turned to her, disbelief in her eyes. "Are you sure about this? It's a one-time use only." Zalora nodded, her resolve unwavering. "We don't have any other choice. This is our only chance to turn the tide." The crew scrambled into action, working quickly to activate the weapon system. It was an experimental energy weapon, capable of unleashing a powerful blast that could disable even the most advanced ships. But it was risky, and if it failed, the ardent star would be left vulnerable. "Weapon online," Captain Tanis reported, her fingers flying across the controls. "Ready to fire on your command." Zalora took a deep breath. The human fleet was closing in fast, and they would soon be within range to deal the final blow to the ardent star. This was their last chance. "Fire," Zalora commanded, her voice a quiet whisper of desperation. The ardent star shuddered as the weapon unleashed its full power. A brilliant beam of light shot out, streaking through the void of space toward the lead human flagship. For a moment, everything seemed to stand still. Then, the beam hit its target. The explosion that followed was unlike anything Zalora had ever witnessed. The flagship disintegrated in an instant, its massive form turning into a cloud of debris. For a brief moment, it felt like victory was within their grasp. But the joy was fleeting. The remaining human fleet didn't falter. Instead, they regrouped, their formations even tighter than before. Humanity wasn't deterred. They were relentless. Another wave incoming. Tanis shouted, "They're not stopping." Zalora's heart sank. The weapon had worked, but it had only bought them a moment. The true horror of the situation hit her all at once. Humanity wasn't just fighting for survival. They were fighting for something much larger. They were fighting to reclaim their rightful place in the galaxy. But what was it they had lost? What was it that had made them come back with such vengeance? "Captain, we need to retreat," Tanis urged. "We can't keep this up much longer." Zalora hesitated, torn between duty and survival. But in that moment, she knew the truth. The galaxy had made a terrible mistake by forgetting humanity. And now, they would pay the price. "We'll fight until we can't fight anymore," Zalora said grimly. "We're not giving up." But deep down, she knew. This was only the beginning. The day the galaxy had feared had come. The day humanity would take back what was theirs. The reckoning. The battle raged on, and the ardent star continued to take hit after hit. Its shields flickered dangerously, weakening under the barrage of fire from the relentless human fleet. Zalora watched the carnage unfold from the bridge, her eyes steely and cold. It was clear now. This was no longer just a fight for survival. It was an all-out war for control of the galaxy. The human ships, even without their flagship, moved with frightening precision. They had no hesitation, no fear. Their strategies were flawless, as if they had studied every move the ardent star made. Zalora's hands gripped the armrests of her captain's chair. They were too well prepared, too determined. The galaxy, for all its might, could not hold up against humanity's fury. "Captain, we can't keep this up," Tanis shouted from the tactical station, her voice cracking under the pressure. "We're losing ships faster than we can replace them. We're running out of time." Zalora turned, her gaze sharp. "We'll make time." But even as she said the words, she knew they were running out of options. The human fleet wasn't giving them an inch. If they didn't do something drastic soon, it would be over. "We need to find their weakness," Zalora said, thinking out loud. "Their tactics are too precise, too coordinated. There must be something." A sudden explosion rocked the ship, cutting off her thoughts. The ship groaned under the force, and the lights flickered. The bridge crews scrambled to keep their stations intact, but it was clear the situation was growing more dire by the second. "Shields at 40%, Captain," Tanis reported urgently. "We can't keep this up much longer." Zalora's mind raced. What could they do? What was it about humanity that made them so formidable? Why were they fighting with such resolve? She was jolted from her thoughts as a new transmission came through on the comms. It was a human message. The words that followed froze her blood. "This is the human fleet. Surrender now, or we will destroy everything you know." The arrogance in their voice was undeniable, but it wasn't the arrogance that chilled Zalora to her core. It was the certainty. They didn't just believe they would win. They knew they would. "We can't surrender," Zalora muttered to herself. "We won't." But deep down, She knew the truth. The humans had already won. The moment they had declared war, the outcome had been sealed. "Prepare to initiate the retreat protocol," Zalora ordered. "All ships, fall back. We can't afford to lose any more of the fleet." The ardent star slowly began to turn, its engines roaring to life as it pulled away from the human ships. The remaining fighters, battered but not broken, followed closely behind, launching one final volley of fire as they retreated. But as they fled, Zalora felt a strange sense of defeat. The galaxy had underestimated humanity. They had thought themselves invincible, safe behind their alliances and their advanced technology. But they hadn't accounted for the sheer will of the human spirit. It wasn't just about the ships or the weapons. It was about something deeper. Humanity wasn't fighting for control. It was fighting for survival. And when pushed to the edge, humanity would not be broken. They would fight until their last breath. As the fleet retreated, the remaining ardent starfighters disappearing into the vastness of space, Zalora stood on the bridge, staring out at the distant human ships. The damage was done. The message had been sent. Humanity was not to be underestimated. But as Zalora turned away, something lingered in the back of her mind. The humans had given a warning: surrender or face total annihilation. There was no going back from that. The galaxy would never be the same. And as Zalora's mind raced, she wondered, what had humanity truly been hiding all this time? It was a question that gnawed at her, even as she retreated into the darkness of space, leaving the chaos behind. The secrets of humanity. The dark void of space stretched endlessly before the retreating fleet. The ardent star's engines hummed softly, the only sound on the bridge as the crew silently carried out their orders. Zalora stood in the center of the command room, her arms crossed tightly, her mind racing. It was as if everything she thought she knew about the universe had been shattered in a matter of days. Humanity. She had underestimated them. Everyone had. For generations, the galaxy had looked at humanity as a primitive, chaotic species, a species to be ignored, left to their small corner of space. No one had taken the time to study them seriously, to understand what made them tick. But now, humanity had proven that they were not just another species in the galaxy. They were something else, something much more dangerous. Zalora had seen it on the battlefield. It wasn't just their weapons or their ships. It was something intrinsic to their very nature. The humans were driven by an unrelenting force, a desire to survive and fight at all costs. They fought not for power, but for the survival of their people, for the future of their civilization, and that made them an unstoppable force. The more Zalora thought about it, the more questions bubbled to the surface. What was it that had given humanity this relentless spirit? Why had they fought so fiercely to protect their world, their species? What was it they had that no other species had? A sudden, unexpected beep from the comm station broke her concentration. Tanis, the chief tactician, looked up from the monitor, her face pale. "Captain," Tanis said, her voice shaking, "we've intercepted a transmission. It's a message from the humans." Zalora walked over, her steps heavy. She didn't need to ask what it was. She already knew. The humans had something they wanted to share, or perhaps something they wanted the galaxy to hear. "Play it," Zalora ordered. The voice that crackled through the speakers was not one of the commanding generals they had encountered on the battlefield. This voice was different. Calm. Almost peaceful. To the galaxy's remaining forces, the voice began, "You have witnessed the truth about humanity. We are not the monsters you thought we were, but we are not the meek species you once believed us to be either. We have seen the future, and we will do whatever it takes to ensure that future is a reality." Zalora's eyes narrowed. What were they trying to say? "We have not just advanced in technology," the voice continued. "We have advanced in ways you cannot imagine. Our strength is not in our ships or our weapons, but in the heart of every human. We are united, and that unity makes us unstoppable." The transmission paused, and Zalora felt the weight of those words. The galaxy had never seen a species like this. The humans will, their unity. It wasn't just something they talked about. It was something they lived, breathed, and fought for every single day. Zalora clenched her fists. This wasn't just a declaration of victory. It was a warning. The galaxy had made a mistake by underestimating humanity, and now they would pay the price. But the message wasn't over. The voice returned, its tone now softer, more ominous. We will not stop until our future is assured. We will do what is necessary to secure our place in this galaxy. And no matter how many fleets we must face, no matter the cost, we will not stop. You have seen our strength. Now you will see our resolve. You have one chance. Surrender, and we will offer peace. Continue to resist, and we will show you the true extent of our power. The transmission ended, leaving a haunting silence in its wake. Zalora stood motionless, the weight of the message settling in her chest like a heavy stone. The humans had not just declared their intent to win. They had made it clear that they were willing to go to any lengths to ensure their survival. And it was then that Zalora realized the truth. Humanity was not just another species in the galaxy. They were the galaxy's greatest threat. Their strength, their unity, and their willingness to do whatever it took to survive made them a force unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Zalora turned to face her crew. "Prepare the fleet," she said, her voice low and steady. "We're going back. We can't afford to let them win. Not after everything they've done." But even as she spoke, a part of her wondered if it was too late. Could the galaxy even stand a chance against humanity? She wasn't sure anymore. The truth was undeniable. Humanity was on the rise, and nothing would stop them now. And as the ardent star moved forward into the unknown, Zalora couldn't help but feel a growing sense of dread. The galaxy had never faced an enemy like this before. The true horror of humanity was just beginning to reveal itself. The human response. The darkness of space was a quiet, unsettling backdrop as the ardent star and its fleet ventured back towards the heart of the galaxy. The crew worked in tense silence, their eyes glued to the monitors, their hands moving over controls in practiced motions. But no one could escape the weight of the decision they had made. Zalora stood at the bridge's helm, her gaze fixed ahead. The message from the humans still echoed in her mind. We will do whatever it takes to secure our place in this galaxy. She could feel the gravity of those words pressing down on her. It wasn't just a threat. It was a promise. For the first time in a long time, doubt gnawed at her resolve. The galaxy had always been dominated by powerful empires and warlords, but none had ever shown the raw, burning desire to protect their species that humanity had. None had fought so fiercely for their survival. "Captain," Tanis said, her voice tight, "we've received a response from the humans. They're approaching." Zalora's heart skipped a beat. She turned to face the tactical officer, trying to mask her growing unease. "How many ships?" she asked, her voice betraying no emotion. Tanis didn't answer right away, her eyes scanning the incoming data. Then, with a strained voice, she spoke. "It's not just a fleet. It's a new type of ship. We've never seen anything like it before." Zalora's mind raced. The humans had always been resourceful, their ingenuity unmatched. But this was something beyond their capabilities. She walked toward the monitor, her thoughts racing. The ship that appeared on the screen was massive, far larger than any vessel the galaxy had ever seen. It wasn't just its size that stunned Zalora, it was the design. The ship seemed alive, its structure shifting and adapting as though it were an extension of the humans themselves. "It looks like they've merged their technology with something else," Zalora muttered, her fingers hovering over the console as if to reach out and touch the strange vessel. "What kind of weaponry are we looking at?" Tanis hesitated before replying. "We've been able to identify their shields, far beyond anything we've ever encountered. And their weapons, they're not like anything we've ever seen either. It's as if they've found a way to channel pure energy." Zalora clenched her fists. It was clear that humanity wasn't just catching up to the galactic powers, they were surpassing them. And the galaxy wasn't ready for what was coming. "Open a comm link," Zalora ordered, her voice sharp. "We need to hear what they have to say." A few tense moments passed before the screen flickered to life. A calm, almost indifferent voice filled the room. "This is Commander Alara of the United Human Front. We've received your transmission, and we're here to discuss terms." Zalora's breath caught in her throat. Alara. She had heard rumors about this human commander, the one who had been leading the charge against the galaxy's strongest factions. The name alone was enough to send a shiver down her spine. Zalora composed herself, stepping forward. "Commander Alara, this is Captain Zalora of the Ardent Star. We know what you're thinking," Alara interrupted, her voice now colder, sharper. "You're wondering if humanity can truly change the balance of power in the galaxy. You're wondering if we can wipe out entire fleets without hesitation. You're wondering if we'll be merciful." Zalora's heart beat faster. The words hit too close to home. Alara continued, "I'll give you one chance, Captain. Surrender now, and we will show you mercy. Resist, and you'll see the full extent of what humanity is capable of." The transmission ended abruptly, leaving nothing but the echo of her words behind. Zalora stood motionless. The arrogance, the confidence, it was like nothing she had ever seen. The humans had become something else entirely. Something terrifying. "Prepare for battle," Zalora finally said, her voice tight. "We fight or we fall." But even as she spoke, doubt gnawed at her insides. Could they really win this fight? Humanity had something they didn't, something they couldn't understand. And as the fleet moved closer to the humans' forces, Zalora couldn't shake the feeling that the galaxy was about to experience a shift it couldn't recover from. The humans had already begun to show their true power, and Zalora wasn't sure if anyone could stop them now. The horrors they promised were no longer just threats. They were a reality that everyone in the galaxy would soon have to face. And deep down, Zalora couldn't help but wonder, would humanity's rise bring salvation or destruction? The only certainty was that the galaxy would never be the same again. The dawn of humanity's reign. The battle was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. The vast emptiness of space became the canvas for an unimaginable spectacle. Brilliant flashes of energy, ships darting in every direction, and the relentless hum of weaponry echoing across the dark void. But the true horror wasn't in the sheer scale of destruction. It was in the realization that humanity had transformed the battlefield. Zalora stood at the helm of the Ardent Star, her fingers gripping the controls as if they were her last lifeline. The crew was working tirelessly, but no one dared speak. The silence between commands spoke volumes. Humanity had proven itself far more dangerous than they had anticipated. Their fleet, a shifting mass of organic and mechanical might, was tearing through the galaxy's defenses with terrifying precision. "Shields at 40%, Captain," Tanis shouted, her voice strained from the tension. "We can't keep up with their firepower. We need to fall back." But Zalora didn't respond. Her eyes were fixed on the screen, her thoughts clouded by the image of the human fleet closing in. Their flagship, a monstrous ship brimming with power, hovered just outside their reach. She could feel its presence even through the cold void of space. It was alive, alive in a way that no other ship had ever been before. It moved, adapted, and responded like an entity with its own will. "We can't outrun them," Zalora whispered under her breath. She had always believed the Galactic Empire's military might was unstoppable, but humanity had shattered that illusion in a matter of hours. "Captain, they're hailing us," the communication officer said, breaking the tense silence. "It's Commander Alara again." Zalora nodded, taking a deep breath. She knew this moment would come, but she wasn't prepared for the feeling that crept over her. The eerie certainty that this would be humanity's victory, not theirs. The screen flickered to life once again. And there she was, Commander Alara, her face as calm and resolute as ever. "Captain Zalora, Alara's voice echoed through the room. I won't ask you to surrender again. We both know what happens next. Zalora clenched her fists. You can't just destroy everything, she snapped. The galaxy is ours. The galaxy was never yours to begin with, Alara interrupted, her tone unyielding. You've ruled through fear, through control, through endless wars. But the humans, humanity, are different. We don't conquer through force alone. We conquer through unity, ingenuity, and unrelenting resolve. Zalora opened her mouth to retort, but the words caught in her throat. She had never encountered such confidence, such certainty. It was as if Alara's very presence was a challenge to everything Zalora had ever known. I don't need to say any more, Alara continued, her voice growing colder. You've seen what we can do. You've felt it firsthand. There's no stopping us now. The transmission ended before Zalora could respond. The silence that followed was deafening. Do we fight? Tanis asked quietly, her eyes scanning the damage to their ship. Do we even have a chance? Zalora closed her eyes for a moment. For the first time in her life, she didn't have an answer. She had always believed that the galaxy was hers to command, that the power of her fleet could overcome any challenge. But now, standing on the precipice of humanity's rise, she realized how wrong she had been. The humans are already here, Zalora said softly, her voice almost a whisper, and they're not going anywhere. As the ardent star drifted closer to the inevitable, Zalora couldn't help but feel a strange sense of awe. This was the dawn of a new era, and humanity was at its helm. The galaxy would never be the same again. Humanity's reign had begun, and with it came the promise of a future neither the galaxy nor its inhabitants were prepared for. But what would this future look like? Was it a future of peace and prosperity, or would it become one of darkness and chaos? As Zalora and her crew watched the human fleet move into position, one thing was certain. Whatever came next, it would be nothing like what they had ever known before. The galaxy had underestimated humanity, and now they would pay the price. The horrors they had once feared were nothing compared to what humanity was capable of. The time for mercy had passed, and the day humanity claimed its place as the true rulers of the galaxy had arrived.